Nuclear stocks rising on expectations that President Trump will sign several executive orders easing regulations and boosting productivity for the sector. According to Reuters, the executive orders would use the Defense Production Act to declare a national emergency, making it easier to permit and build reactors, and order federal agencies to identify publicly owned lands that could be used for nuclear production. Joining us now with more, we've got JU Nano Nuclear Energy founder, executive chairman, and president. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me today.
Talk to me about your reaction to these proposed executive orders. What do you make of the policy shift, and what does it do for your company?
We kind of expected this because of the Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright. He's been going around promoting and saying that under this administration, there will be a nuclear renaissance. And this has been a full circle for us because we started the company about 4 years ago and went all in on nuclear. And we kind of predicted, I would say, or I predicted this type of shift because everyone keeps talking about net zero goals. Like, how are you going to reach that? How are all these countries going to reach that without nuclear? So that was kind of our thesis, and we're very happy with what the administration is doing right now.
Some of this, too, was really signaled by companies, even towards the end of last year, as we were hearing about some of their data center ambitions and making sure that they had access to their own energy, and companies like Oracle talking about looking at land for nuclear reactors. So what's really going to be driving this? Is it the private sector that's putting and earmarking and has been earmarking billions of dollars, or is it the public sector and some of the commitments there that we're starting to hear more about?
Yeah, I think the advancement of technologies, new nuclear technologies like what Nano is building, a lot of these new reactors, their technologies, they can't explode. They use no liquid coolant, right? So I think the technologies have now advanced that the market understands this, but now it's basically the costs and the regulatory aspect. And this is what the executive orders really touch on. It's the regulatory burdens, right? And how we can expedite this. And AI and quantum computing and data centers now are on the rise, and they understand that without nuclear, it's going to be a really hard issue to actually get to this base load energy production.
Earlier this week, we saw your stock and, of course, several other stocks in the space down off the back of what's included in the tax bill and concerns about the rollback of IRA funding specifically. Why do these executive orders this morning make investors so much more bullish about the stock, even though that IRA rollback is still happening?
Yeah, great question. I think mainly because easing of the regulatory burden. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission has been kind of like an eyesore in this process, and now with this executive order, it can help ease that, but also potentially funding opportunities, because I think that's been the goal here. When you think of nuclear, you think of big costs, but with small nuclear, what Nano Nuclear is developing, the costs come down drastically. So if we could get help from the government, easing with regulatory burden, and also we've hired, in-house a lot of these regulatory people who are guiding us to the future.
With that in mind, I mean, I guess I put the conscious capital hat on for this one. Are we thinking about nuclear in the future as something that is not only positive for the productivity side of the equation, but also positive on a net emission side? Like, how do we balance those things against what companies have said in the past against their own ambitious goals for any type of environmental and social governance?
Yeah, I think when you look at nuclear energy, I think the perception, like the PR, we've used it from inception for bad things, right? But really, it's a miracle that was given to us. It pretty much creates the most baseload energy in a small fraction of an area, and that could drive us for decades, right? So I think people are realizing that it's virtually carbon-free emission, so that helps with the decarbonization of the world and the net zero goals. And I think this is where the private sector and public sector have to unite in order to actually succeed. But back to your point, it's all about clean tech, green energy for the future, and reducing carbon emissions for the Earth.
Jay, thanks so much for taking the time
joining
us here in studio on a Friday, no less. We didn't expect to see anybody in studio. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.